Okay, Anthony, whenever you're ready, I think you can go ahead.
Should we wait a few minutes?
Wait a couple of minutes, exactly. I have the recording set, so whenever you're ready to go, just go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just hold on for maybe
Perfect.
2 or 3 minutes.
No problem.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Maybe we can get started. Yeah, whoever should be here, we're on time. Okay. So, welcome to VRDays. Hope you're all, staying safe, and maybe next year we get to meet in person over there. So let me start off by introducing myself. I'm Anthony Demanuele. I'm the director at Flying Squirrel Games, and today we're here to talk to you about of the presentation is called Designing Rehabilitation Environments for VR Games. So the way we structure this, we're going to get this title and break it down into like smaller sections so we can see what we can take away from all of this. But let me first start by introducing myself, the team, and the project that we're representing here at Prime VR. If you have any questions, I see a few people around here in the room. So if you have questions, feel free to just unmute and ask away. If not, it would help if everyone stays muted, of course. Okay, so like I said, I'm Anthony Demanuele, graduated about 11 years ago and been working in the games industry since then. Started off with working on passion projects, of course. Two titles that come to mind are called Scarfish and Battles on the Horizon. These were just small titles that we did many years ago. And since then, all of this led to opening up the studio called Flying Squirrel Games. So Flying Squirrel Games is a small game development studio based in Malta. We were established in 2015. We've done a number of games since then, different genres from educational games, kids games, racing games, and other genres as well. We're a multidisciplinary team, so we try to build a game from start to finish, starting off from just concept, from an idea, building concept art, working on the game design document, actually building the game, going through a lot of iterations until you finish that, and publishing updates to the games, the full deal. So I'll just mention a few games real quick just to get an idea of what games we've been working on. I'll start off with Nothing to Declare, a game that we built for the customs department here in Malta. The game is available throughout all of Europe. It was received quite well, and you can say this is an example of a serious game. The reason for that is that the premise of the game is teaching about the work done by the customs departments across Europe, whether it's stopping you at the airport or dealing with with packages. There's a lot of work being done over there. Paperclip Merge is a game about Kyle McDonald, a Canadian guy who didn't really want to work much, but he still wanted, to provide for his family. So he said, okay, what if I go back to trading like we did in the old days? So he started off with a simple paperclip and traded all the way to get a house in the end. So if you don't know the story of this guy, I would highly encourage you to read the book or even play the game. Very fun guy, interesting story. Forged in Fire, a game we did for the History Channel, for the show, with the same name. 3 more titles. We've worked a lot on racing games. Started off in the first one, Dirt Tracking 1 in 2015. Dirt Tracking Sprint Cars in 2017, Dirt Tracking 2 in 2019. All of these games are available on the Nintendo Switch, Apple App Store, and Google Play. So we're here to talk about representing the Prime VR project. The Prime VR project is a €4 million EU Horizon project. And we're building this platform to use virtual reality to aid rehabilitation. It's a 3-year-long project with consortium members from all across Europe. We have universities, hospitals, and SMEs to work. So, like I said, in this project, we're building this platform to bring about therapists and patients together, where they can use, customized controllers instead of using the controllers that we get with virtual reality off-the-shelf controllers. We're providing them with custom controllers for each individual patient that help them with their therapies according to their needs. We're catering for 3 types of patients, to call them that. So we have patients who had a stroke, we have patients who had a sports injury, or patients with dystonia. So we're building different controllers for each of the user groups. And the therapists would assign 1 or more of the rehab games that we are building on this platform with their rehabilitation. What do we mean by this? They can change a lot of configure them for each individual patient, whether it's frequency, how often they should play these games, or the difficulty. Many different parameters. According to the game, we expose a number of parameters that can be changed by the therapist according to the patient's needs. Patient, on the other hand, would log into the platform, download these games, and they can play them at the comfort of their own home or the clinic, wherever they're getting their rehabilitation. And we hope that this will provide better therapy to the end users. So let's go back to the title of this presentation. So, designing rehabilitation environments for VR series games. And we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about series games, then about environments, so the different types of environments that we see in games, and what makes them special for when we're talking about rehabilitation, what changes there. So let's start off with series games. So series games is not a new idea. It's been around for many years. The oldest series game that we could find is a game where soldiers used to practice warfare, just to see what strategies work best in a warlike environment. Obviously, that's a very serious topic, but we've seen a lot of other games, and we'll mention a few later on as well. So a series game is any game that is not built for fun or entertainment, like most games are, but they have a learning outcome. We are focused on, getting something out of this game. It could be teaching you, like we said, war strategies. It could be teaching you a particular subject, maybe geography or math or anything like that. In our case, the learning outcome of our game is the rehabilitation. We want our games to be fun and engaging and entertaining, all of that, but what we really are focusing on is they need to provide rehabilitation for the patients. So why games? We know that games keep if you have kids, you'll know that it's very hard to get kids away from games. Why is that? Because they keep them engaged, unlike maybe other media. They provide non-linear teaching, so it's not like I tell you need to learn this and that, and you have to follow a textbook from the first page till the last page. They provide different ways of learning subjects. And very interestingly, the emergent gameplay. As we can mention one game like Minecraft, that sandbox environment, you're put into this environment, and then you come up with your own gameplay, whatever you want to do in that context. I'll mention a few serious games to give you the idea that this is not a niche environment that is only catered or used by a few. And the other game, Oregon Trail, has been used in the US for many years to teach students in schools. So it's been used in public schools to teach about. It's about the Oregon Trail, but it teaches you all about strategy and history as well. So there are different lessons to be learned over there. Microsoft Flight Simulator. So it's like the title says, it's a simulator to fly non-combat airplanes. But when we say simulator, it shows that it's an accurate representation of the real deal. A Force More Powerful. It was a serious game built a few years ago to show that yes, you can bring about change without using violence. So in the game, you have to orchestrate a non-violent campaign to bring about change, to get down dictators or oppressive regiments and so on. And the last one, World Without Oil, is another serious game to help you to again keep this. We recently experienced the COP26. So this built on top of that many years ago, again, to see how will you be impacted if there is no more oil in the world. How should we change our policies to avoid issues? And on this topic, I'll just close off with the power of games. So we've all studied chemistry at some point in our lives, and it's very hard to learn to remember most of the elements in the periodic table. But then you see most kids will just tell you the abilities of Pokemon without ever studying them in a list format like this. So it shows that yes, indirect teaching actually works. Now let's go back to environments. So we spoke a little bit about serious games, but this is about environments. What are environments? So an environment is wherever you are to play the game. You need to be given context of where you are. Traditional games started off with being 2D, like we see there in Super Mario. Some camera play came into action as you can see in SimCity. It's still a 2D game, but you get to see an orthographic camera to give you the immersion that it is a 3D world. Later on in time, we see the games starting coming around, and you can play most 3D games in first or third-person view. Tomb Raider, you can see the character Lara Croft from far away, so you get to see the full character. It's not as immersive, so you're not here, you're just moving here. In Ace Combat, you're actually flying the plane, so that's a first-person game. Some games are better suited than others when it comes to this choice in camera. Both of these shots are from Gran Turismo. You can see the one on the right. Yes, you're still driving the car, but you're not attached to the car, just something that is detached from you. Whereas in the shot on the left, you're actually the driver. You're in control of the car. That makes it way more immersive. So right now, we're just talking about traditional games. In VR, this changes a little bit because here we're talking about VR environments. In VR environments, we've seen games where you still play in third-person view. These are not so common, and they're not as immersive as you see in these two titles. In Job Simulator or in Half-Life Alyx, you just see your gloves, your hands, and that's what you see to interact with. There is no embodiment. You don't get to see your full character. Now, okay, so we've seen the different environments and what we see in VR, but how can we make them? What do we need to design? What do we need to think about when designing environments, especially for VR? Scale is really important. So now we've seen that you just get to see your gloves or your hands or some at least part of your body. In this case, the scale of the world must be believable. That you need to walk around in a way, and even the things that you interact with, they are physical and using normal scales, so you don't feel that you're too big or too small that might cause nausea or other you don't really want when playing a game. They don't necessarily have to be lifelike, so the scales, yes, but they don't have to be lifelike, so we can still play in environments that are not out of this world, but we would still expect them to obey the laws of physics. So if something is, you would expect something to be interactive, you can still grab something, you can still throw it. If it should bounce, you'd still expect it to bounce. You'd expect that there's no clipping if you throw it on a wall, or in this example, you can bounce the ball on the board. You'd expect the ball, to bounce back. You shouldn't expect the ball to just go fly off. That would, break the immersion if that happens. In our case, how are we dealing with all of this when designing VR environments for our rehabilitation games? First of all, you need to give visual cues in the real world to show where you can go and what you can interact with. So if an object is something that you can grab, we would highly encourage that you show this by showing maybe it glows or it bounces off slightly in the world. Somehow you need to show that. In-game UI, we keep that to a minimum. It's very painful on the eyes to try and read text in VR environments, and it feels out of place as well, because when we walk around in the real world, there's no flying pieces of text around. So how do we go about this? In this case, we would place boards, and you'd place text on that board or print it on the ground if you're showing direction or arrows. There are different ways of going around this. Manageable distances as well. So this is very important. So earlier we said, okay, let's make sure that the scales feel natural. You have to compromise sometimes. So when it comes to distances, in this example that we show here, we're building a big sports arena. There is no place on Earth, as far as we know, that you go to one place and you can do target practice and archery and basketball and baseball and mini golf and all of these sports in one location. But for the purpose of our needs, they're all within walking distance from each other. So there's no danger of target practice shooting someone playing basketball in virtual reality. So in this case, it's okay for our needs that you can just walk out from one zone, move to the other one, and keep on playing. So distances are very important because it breaks the immersion if you try to just walk away from one place to the other, or you have to teleport. Even just by using teleportation, that breaks a bit the feeling. Now when it comes, all of these apply to all VR environments. But right now, let's see, how can we go a step further and think about rehabilitation VR environments? So obviously, if you're building something for rehabilitation, there's a reason for that. So there must be some form of impairment that that your users will have, whether they're, maybe in our case, we know that most of our users will be chair-bound. So we need to make sure everything within reach as much as possible. When that is not possible, because sometimes it is very hard to do, we're making also use of an assistant. So we're building VR games, in our case, because it is possible, where we expose certain elements to an assistant. So an assistant, someone else, a family member or a therapist, anyone else that is sitting next to you can aid you in whatever you're doing in the environment. Maybe they can help you walk around, or they can bring stuff to you. This is not normally done in most games, because most games are meant to be played on your own. But in our case, because these are rehabilitation games, we could use something like this, where someone else can help you within the game environment. So to close off, maybe we see what can we take away from all of this. First of all, we say we came up with the term like KYP, know your patient. So in our case, we came up with these requirements. We know what our patients need and what their impairments are. So in our case, obviously, we need to cater for those for those impairments. You might have different requirements. Obviously, in that case, you need to handle them differently. The demographics is very, very important. So whether you're building a game for young kids or maybe more adult, you need to build the environment, especially the art style that caters for those demographics. Here we see some examples where underwater experience was very preferred with a younger audience, but some other environments like a kitchen-like environment was preferred by older guys. And last but not least, this is very important. There's no one way of doing things, so you need to end up with prototyping and iterating, showing the progress along the way to your end users, and see how you can improve based on that. That's all I had for you today. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can follow more about the work that we're doing on our website and Twitter and other social media. Thank you. Thank you. I'll wait here. If anyone has questions, feel free to just
You want to? So to any other interested attendees as well, Anthony will be doing another talk on designing avatars for rehabilitation in VR serious games, which will start at 2:45 CET. So we welcome you all back at 2:45 for the second part of Anthony's talk on designing avatars for rehabilitation games. You again, Anthony.
Thank you, Colin. Hope to see you again, all of you soon.